All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of We Create Music TV. I am your host, Vaughan, and today we have an extraordinary guest, music producer, singer, songwriter, rap singer. Brother, welcome to the show.
What's up, man?
Welcome to the show.
Oh, shoot, we got to clap. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. We got the claps and everything.
Let's
welcome.
do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Glad that you're here today. And we're to jump right into it. So if you wouldn't mind starting us off, for those that may not know who you are, just walk us through your journey, brother. How'd you get started in this music thing?
Man. And so, I got to go way back. So it starts at 12 years old. 12 years old, I had just moved to Sacramento from the Bay Area. I was living in Richmond. Richmond, California. And I was going back and forth. I had just moved from Frisco, and I was just fresh to the city. It was in Sacramento, new landscape. I had never really been in the valley like that, and it started in church. It started in church for me. So that was like my bare bones beginnings. And how it started in church was crazy because back then I used to skate. So I was like on the Tony Hawk stuff heavy. Like I was getting sponsored like the whole nine. And just BMX biking. So that's all I used to do was extreme sports because coming from the Bay, like you get exposed to that stuff a lot, like real quick. So I went to this church. It was called the Rock Church. It was in Elk Grove off Bradshaw. And it was a holiness church. It's an apostolic church, but it was a predominantly Caucasian church too at the same time. So I'm like, I'm going there. I'm like, okay, I'm about to fall asleep. But on everything, I promise you, if you went in there when they did praise and worship and you just close your eyes, it sound like a black church. It sounded like Commission was in there singing, like they was really wilding, like with the music. And that was my first like peak, like my first interest. Like, man, like this is kind of dope. Like they pretty nice. They kind of nice. Like, you know. I didn't expect that, and that was my first exposure. And it was this cat on the keys. His name was Justin Hogue. Later to find out, but he was a brother, and he was up there killing, man. Like I'm just like, bro, I got to do this. That's when I knew like that. I heard that and I seen that, and I just felt the response, and I knew at that moment like this is something I got to do. So that's pretty much how I got started in the music, and that kind of turned into a long story because then I was going to like a smaller version of the church. That was like the big church that they had, and they had a sister church called the Rock Church as well, which was like a smaller spot. I get in there first service, and I see this young cat on the drums. His name was Brian. We ended up being friends later on, and I'm 12 at the time, so he's younger than me. He looked younger than me. He's going crazy. He had the 80s kid and play flat top.
Yeah, the flat top?
Going on. I'm like,
oh yeah, I had one of them.
That flat top's going crazy. But
I used to.
On the drums. He said,
I used to have one of them.
Shit, not no more.
For real.
Yeah, he was going nuts on the drums. And I'm like, man, he kind of dope. Again, I'm like, okay, I can do this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm about to do this music. And at that point, this is so far back, I didn't know how to rap. I didn't know how to sing. I didn't know how to play keys yet. I didn't know nothing. I just knew that I wanted to do music. And that was my first experience, my first, like, peak in interest to be like, man, I'm going to do this music. So from there, again, it's a holiness church. So I get hit with a bomb. I didn't even expect this, but they don't, and they're apostolic on top of that. So they didn't. This is one of them super duper holiness churches. They didn't, they don't want the women cutting their hair. They wearing dresses down to the ankles. You know what I mean? Like
can't wear pants. Can't wear makeup.
That's a no go. That's a no fly zone. So I was like, man, you can watch TV. I'm like, why you can't watch TV?
TV's the devil.
Exactly. That's all they had. That was their explanation. And I'm like, all right, well. I wasn't with that at first, but the reason I got with it because you become a member. I wanted to play. I wanted to get on stage and play the keys because I love the music. I love what's going on. I wanted to be a part of it. So we became a member. Long story short, my mom took the TV out of the house to basically comply with the church, and she replaced it with a Casio keyboard from Target. You know what I mean? And that was like it was one of the joints that had the keys that light up so you could see everything and know how to
The little
play.
red keys.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I was able to pick it up real quick because I could just watch it over and over and over and over again. And it had the keys, so I just played the notes one line, one bar at a time, and it had nothing but classical music in it. So I started learning that and started getting classically trained. I only
Mm.
took 3 lessons in my entire life from Justin Hogue, and he taught me how to play by ear. So he didn't
Wow.
teach me sheet music. He asked me if I knew sheet music. I learned that on
Mm.
my own off the internet and just like learning how to read sheet music and learning the treble and the bass clef, learning how to like sight read. I kind of got into that, but I used to always have to just read page
Mm.
by page and practice it and rehearse. And he exposed me to blues and jazz and improv, and big steps.
Mm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't used to that. I was just used to sheet music. So that's a big transition in itself, going from sheet music to having to do improv. Because that's, I mean, as you know, like with church music, that's all it is all day long. It's
Yeah.
improv. It's not
Oh yeah.
really. You can write it out, but you and I both know, like, you get on the organ, you
When
got
they on
that
the
one dude
morgan,
on Hammond B3 playing chords that's not supposed to be in the song and transitions like that. That's not on the sheet music, bro. Like,
oh
where you
no,
get
no.
that from? What book is that in? He like, oh, that ain't no book, bro. That ain't
Right.
no book. That's right here. That's
That's
just,
right here. That's.
you know. I'm like, okay, I gotta learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a hurdle, but I got over that. So I learned how to play by ear. And he taught me chords, he taught me scales, he taught me chord intervals, he
Mm.
taught me like just how to find a key, and just unlock my ear to being able to hear the song, searching for the bass line. Based
Mm-hmm.
on the bass line, you can start eliminating what chords is being played after you know the key. And is that was my first experience in music. And then right around that time, back to old boy was playing drums, young dude.
Mm-hmm.
We started a group. So I came from old school CHH, which for those who
Mm-hmm.
don't know, that's Christian hip hop and
Yep.
urban gospel at the time. That's what they used to call it because everybody had just started rapping. This was back when
Right.
cross movement was barely moving. You had T-Bone and gospel gangsters. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yep.
So this is back in the day. This is before Triple E. This is before Lecrae. This is before Flame. This is before all of that.
Oh man.
Um, and we had that, and we had his group. My real name Josh. His name was Brian. So we made JB, and then I was like, we gotta think of something else. JB Platinum, and that was the name of the group.
JB Platinum.
Super duper cheesy name, but we was moving around in the city. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And that was my like. Little did I know, looking back now, it's like, okay, that's when I really started music. Like that's when it was like I had my first group and we took off from there. So they used to have youth ministry all the time. So that's when we really started rapping. But we started doing that after they had one talent show at the church, and it was at the big church, it was at the Holiness Church and the big branch. Now you gotta picture this. It's a Caucasian church. They sound black. There is no black people singing per se. But they sound like commission like crazy. It's fire. Cause you gotta understand, I come from the Bay Area. I'm not used to this. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we did the little talent show. We get up there. You got two little black kids jump on stage, and we do a rap song for the first time. What feels like in that church ever, and it's like they liked it. I think our age was on our side because I had to be like 13 and he was 12, so we were super young. So it was more of a back then like a cute factor, if anything. I think that helped us out, but they liked it, but they was like, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna do that no more here. And that's when tall tees
look
was in
not
full effect.
look
Full
not in
effect. I
no
had a tall tee
apostolic.
and some Air Force Ones. Nah. Yo, I was out there killing it. But yeah, I mean that was the first thing, and then it happened to be some people in there that was from a church in Roseville, called Lord's Gym,
Mm.
and it was connected into Gold's Gym, and they basically like took us under their wing, man. Like they used to have a youth ministry that was dedicated to the youth, and they
Mm-hmm.
had this like it wasn't no 18-wheeler, but it looked like one. It was like 18-wheeler truck, and the whole the inside of the truck just came down, bam,
Oh yes.
and it turned into a stage, and they just had like these speakers on here. I'm like, this mess is crazy. Like I ain't never seen nothing like this in my life. But they used to let us perform, and they would go around the city And again, little did I know, this is my first experience. I wasn't looking at it like that, but we would pretty much tour. I remember one year, like we did like literally like what had to be like near like 90 to 100 shows in a year. And
Wow.
that was how they did their outreach. You know what I mean? They would just pull
Mm-hmm.
up on random cities, random apartment buildings, like half the time in the hood, you feel me? And
Mm-hmm.
like literally just be performing. Again, I'm 13, 14. You're aware,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not that aware. I'm just trying to get
Mm-hmm.
on stage. So I'm trying to jump on stage no matter where it is. But in Sac, they had 12th Ave, you have G Parkway, that's like,
Mm-hmm.
like the hood areas. And we just pull up and we'll perform. So that was that's how I got into music. But
Wow.
it's a long journey. It never stopped from there. From there it never stopped. So probably when I was 15,
Mm-hmm.
going on 16, I got my first drum machine. I had the MPC 1000
Mm.
throwback,
Oh, that's a throwback. That's the,
the blue
yeah,
joint with the burgundy sides.
yeah.
And that's when I made my first beat when I was 16. So I didn't start producing until then. And then after I turned 16, I had the MPC. Then I had my Casio piano. I never turned back from there. And then my mom's bought me a bass at the time because there was this dude named Kevin Gower. He used to be at the church just like killing, bro, killing. He was the only black person in the church at the time playing, but he was nice. And I'm like, yo, it's yeah, that was the
Mm.
beginnings, man,
Mm-hmm.
and it grew. It's so many stories, man. It's a long story, but like that was my
Wow.
very, 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 very beginnings.
Wow. So what was the transition for you? The catalyst that took you from CHH Christian hip hop to R&B and what you're doing now?
My environment, like, and not in a
Mm.
bad way, not in a bad way. I
Mm-hmm.
always say, like, what's the point of being a light if you ain't never in a dark room? You know what I mean? Don't nobody keep lights on in a lit room. So at the time I didn't really realize it, but I used to be I worked with a cat named Mark Knox. He probably gonna laugh when he see this, but because he know the whole backstory. Like he's one of the people too. He took me under his wing, but
Mm-hmm.
he was in jazz. You know, he was doing jazz and hip hop in the city. That's what I would find myself in the studio with E40's family, D Shot, Sugar T. I was in the studio with Mark
Mm-hmm.
Knox. He would be like with Rick Rock, Bueno. Like I was getting exposed to a lot of these names in the city because at this point, I felt like I'm a producer. I'm trying to produce now, so I would
Yeah.
always end up in the studio with everybody in the city. Like I never
Mm.
really was trying to, and at this point, I didn't really have the concept of making money off of it or nothing. I was literally just trying to make
Right.
music
Right.
and make vibes. But the thing was, it's many things over my life that kind of made that transition. None of them are bad. So it's like I didn't have like no falling out or nothing. Like I've been a church dude forever. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm still like that to this day. And I feel like that was a part of my journey of getting there to where I'm at right now is because just being a light. Like I never really been ashamed of like just saying that. You know what I mean? Just even thank God I got this platform with you right now. Because I feel like
Oh
somebody
man.
can see it
Yes.
and be able to like run with it and know like yo you can be impactful. You can be in church. You ain't got to
Mm-hmm.
be ashamed of that side. Try to hide that because you're in the music industry. So
Mm.
the transition, I always felt like for whatever reason, everybody else would be in the studio with everybody who was in church, whoever played in the band or whatever. But I would be like
Mm-hmm.
just, I just moved here, so I didn't feel like I was like apart yet. You know what I mean? Because I was new. I didn't really know nobody. So when I
Right.
went to the studio, I'm in the studio with Mark Knox, and the city be in there because he was doing his thing at the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he had just did some record for like Most Def, and then he did a joint for Snoop. So it was a different crowd base per se.
Mm-hmm.
But when I would be in the studio, this is how it all break down. Like you'll have a cat, he'll be in there for a session, and I don't smoke, but they'll pull out blunt switches, whatever it may be back then,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd be rolling up. You know what I mean by the smoke, and then I didn't smoke. They was like, "Yo, you smoke?" I was like, "Nah, I don't smoke." He's like, "You drink?" I was like, "Nah, I don't drink." They was like, "You go to church or something?" Like, what you mean you don't smoke? You don't drink? So I was like, "Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do, yeah." Like I was never, you know what I mean. They would be like, "Oh, all right, let me." All right, I ain't going. I'll wait till you leave then. And it was always that type of respect. And I didn't really realize it back then. And I was young too, so you gotta understand. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
15 years old in the studio, so they looked at me as like the little homie, like I'm just a little
Mm.
kid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I had the keys. So I wasn't like nice, like I am now, but I was nice enough to the point where they be like, "Yo, hey, put that on the track real quick. Let's." No, I need. Hey, hello, homie, put that on the track. I need that right there. That's that. That's that. I need that vibe. And I started realizing like that to this day is my thing. Like
Mm.
I bring, I feel like I bring, and I'm not saying I'm the only one who has done this in history,
Mm.
because obviously there was way more people before me that we got to give credit to for all of it. But I feel like
Mm.
I bring the church element to my peers of the
Mm.
R&B. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So that was a part of the transition, and just many things. So, like for example, another thing that led to the transition is, again, I'm in a super duper duper holiness church, and they refer to Hollywood as Hollywood. So I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
I can't say, because if that's the case, then I'm that. You know what I mean? Because I can't say that
Mm.
everybody's bad like that and just doomed and going to hell until you meet them and
Mm-hmm.
talk with them, and at the same time that's supposed to be your duty to sow a seed so they can change their life. You know what I mean?
That's
So
right.
I
That's
still to
right.
this day had a mentality. You can't judge nobody at the end of the day. What makes you righteous is when you get back up. A righteous man falls 7 times, but it's the
Mm.
act of getting back up that makes you righteous. So I
Mm-hmm.
always keep that mindset. I never look down on anybody because I didn't have my down moments. You know what I mean? Everybody do.
For
So
real.
um, yeah, and that was a part of my transition because I always felt like there was so much judgment coming from the church to the world. But then I would think like,
Mm.
but there's things that we don't do in the church, the mindset that we're not doing in the church that they have in the world. You can't judge
Mm-hmm.
everybody like that. At the end of the day, at some point in time, God met you where you were.
Hey, hey, God met me smoking Newports and drinking 40s, St.
Yeah,
Ives.
is that so? It's like, am I
No,
supposed to judge you now because
right.
I go to church? It's like, nah, the
Mm-hmm.
Bible don't say it. Don't say that. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to
That's
just
right.
sow a seed and let God do the rest. So
Mm.
it's like I always felt like that. I always felt the need, and I didn't understand why. I always felt the need to just be a light in the dark. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's where my whole little saying came from. I'm like, what's the point of being a light if I ain't never in the dark? What's the
Mm.
point of me going through all of this if I'm never around the type of people that I need
Mm-hmm.
to share the message with? So that was a part of the transition too, because I always felt like a very brick wall divide between the church and the world,
Mm.
and they would always kind of throw the scripture, "Be ye separate from the world." But I'm like, yeah, it says, "But be in the world and be ye separate from the world."
Yeah.
So it's like you got to still, you can't be in denial. You know what I
Right.
mean? What's the point of having the message if you never share the
That's
message?
right.
So
Man,
that was,
you gotta be preaching.
another piece. Man, hey, it
I mean, but
happens. See,
that's
that's
I
what I'm
mean
saying.
that's true though. That's true. I
It's
mean,
facts.
how can we reach a culture of people if we're never in the midst of the culture that we're trying to reach? If we're always within the
Yeah,
four walls, I
it
mean,
don't make no
it's not.
sense.
It makes no sense. I mean, because when you look at it, I mean, I know we ain't really get into, you know what I'm saying, but when you really look at it from even from a biblical perspective, with Jesus he wasn't in the synagogue all the time.
He kicked it with the sinners.
He was with the sinners, right? He was having dinner with Matthew. He was out
Oh,
there with Peter. You know what I'm saying? Like he was with sinners, and so I mean, the bottom line is that you can't be stuck in the walls. And I know I'm grateful. I know the people that you come in contact with are grateful that you are that light in a dark room. I think it's interesting what you said was the fact that they were like, oh, you know what? Okay, we'll just wait till you leave. Then, they had a certain amount of respect for you to not be able to do that. And I think a lot of time people kind of compromise, who they are, so that they can fit in I mean, I know I did that in my life. I know when I was in the military, I did that for myself. That's, like I said, God found me when I was, with Newports and St. Ides. So, I mean, in the military, you try to fit in, there's peer pressure. And so I was a fresh, young buck straight out of high school. I ain't know no better. So I started smoking and drinking like everybody else, just to fit in with everybody in my barracks. But it's good to see that there are people out there who are staying true to themselves and not compromising who they are.
yeah, and it's not to say that I haven't had pitfalls. I think everybody's had pitfalls. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Everybody's had downfalls. Everybody's had those moments. You know what I mean? Where you just try to fit in. But it's like, for the most part of my life, I think that's what made me who I am. Because I'm like that today. Like I really ain't trying to sit down with you. That's how I be feeling like at the
Mm.
time. Because I always been like just solo dolo. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Just on my own, trying to blaze my own trail. But I feel like, we all had those moments, but overall, that's been like my mindset. That's just, especially coming from the Bay Area, like I didn't know no other way to really think. You know what I mean? Like this is how it was. So I feel like taking that and mixing it with the church is kind of like created like who I am right now. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? There's certain pieces of me that ain't never changed, probably never gonna change, and it's a lot of mindsets that I used to have that I don't have no more, just because
Mm.
I have more of a spiritual foresight in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wouldn't do the things that I used to do now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think it's definitely
Yeah.
important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we mature as of course, as we get older, and we learn things as we get older, and so those things, the Bible talks about that. Then see, now you got me into this whole Bible
Yeah,
thing, brother.
you got to do
Like
it though. That's
Paul.
what we're here for.
Paul said, when I was a child, I did childish things, but when I became a man, I put away those childish things. So,
Facts.
we mature as we get older, and the things that we were involved in, we no longer do. Hopefully, but everybody still struggles to your point. But yeah, so talk to us. How did you get your name?
That was a conscious decision. So I was just
Mm.
thinking, like, man, I need something that's on, like, just something that'll catch later when people look at the fact. I always been told, like, working on the music, they were like, yo, the music too busy, it's too much. But I'm like,
Mm.
I didn't hear that until I started moving to LA. You know, when everybody was trying to be over commercialized. Again, I'm coming
Yeah.
from more church background, so it's like busy to me is like, I mean, have y'all heard of shout beat? I mean, like that's still, and I can conceptualize everything. Like it's not busy to
Mm.
me because I'm a musician, so I never looked at music from the point of like I don't even know how to say it, like just an artist. Like I always looked at
Right.
music from the point of a musician, so I heard all the parts. Just like
Mm.
if I was back in the band,
Mm.
and I wanted to bottle that up, box it up. So I came up with like, you know what? I need a name that's more of a statement than an actual name. So I came up with YFRS, which stands for your favorite rap singer. Now, for most people, they be like, "Man, you ain't my favorite. I don't even know who you are. I ain't never heard of you. What you mean, my favorite
My
rap singer? I
favorite.
don't even know your real name." Like, but I was like, "Yo," I would always say, and it's still press play, press play, just press play, press play. You either gonna like it or you gonna love it. But more than
Mm.
likely, once we done, I might be your favorite rap
Your
singer.
favorite rap singer.
So
You
that's
know.
I just started using it as that,
Okay.
and then short for rap singer. You know what I mean? But it's
Mm.
been holding this weight. So and it gives me something to compete with myself because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm not a unison sound type person. Like I listen to
Mm.
everything. Listen from everything from classical to Cotton Club, Scott Joplin to Jay Moss with a jam,
Mm-hmm.
Karen Clark Sheard, Donnie McClurkin, Yolanda
Yes.
Adams, Kim Burrell, all the way to like, you know what I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
Billie Holiday to just Sam Cooke, Jarrell Levert, like
Wow.
Mint Condition, one of my favorite bands, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Prince, you know what I mean? Like just Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, like I'm mixed up. So it's like I feel like your favorite rap
Mm.
singer gives me the chance over time for people to hear different music from me. And I think it's
Right.
about catalog. With certain artists, you can hear three or four songs and be like, I already know what they're gonna sound like.
Yeah.
But I have different variations of music, so it allows me a platform to express myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I had the privilege of checking out some of your music as well. Like I wrote down, what would be some of my favorite stuff that I heard from you. And man, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your music
Yeah, yeah.
because the things that I heard. So I'm gonna give it to you in order that I like my favorite at this particular point.
Man,
Save Me. That just had a different man. I just had a different
man.
feel to it.
Yeah.
So I would say "Save Me," "Get Her Back." That was tight, and "House Party."
Man, thank you.
But yeah, "Save Me" it was just so different, and it just was just so refreshing to hear that type of. I mean, I'll let you explain the story behind it, but just to hear that type of refreshing sound in today's oversaturated music market of commercialism and manufacturism, right? You know, sounding the same. It was just refreshing to hear that.
Hmm. Man, that record came from a real place, and it was crazy because I was going through so much at that time, and I felt like I was working with my boy Scarlet War, TrackKillers. You already know what it is, and I was like, man, I just want to do something different. Like, I just want to like bleed on this record. I don't even want to like. I don't want to sit here and write. I don't want to do nothing. And literally
Mm-hmm.
for about an hour, we're sitting in there. It's just looping. It's looping. It's looping. I took the guitar out. I laid the guitar on there. I was like, man, it just need to be something simple. I need that feeling. Like it gotta feel like some like Sam Cooke type. We got it laid down just like the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in the studio, and for me that was probably one of the realest days in my life. And I literally 90% of that song was freestyle, like that whole beginning portion. And I literally just like, man, I'm gonna just say something. I don't even know how it's gonna come out. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna see. At least it'll be real at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just venting and literally get done. I did a couple takes, ran it back like 2 times. I come out the booth, and this how I knew it was legit. This how I knew it was real. This how I knew it had an impact. I come out the studio, and my boy is like teary eyed.
Ah,
He's
yeah,
like
that's
literally like,
that's the sign.
dang man, just and walks outside. I'm like, oh shoot, is he mad or something? Like he comes back inside. We having a conversation like this, and I'm like, man, he's like man, what are you going through, bro? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
was just one of them. It was one of them moments, bro. It was a real moment. I feel like for both of us, it was a real moment. Like, yo, we did something real. And at that time, it was for my manager, Dwayne DB. He liked to be
DB.
called. Yeah,
DB.
yeah. Track boys in the game. You already know what it is. I gotta shout it
Mm-hmm.
out. But he got his whole history. That's crazy on how we met too. But he was working on a film. And shout out to them with that. It's a 9-time award-winning indie film called Dana Story,
Wow.
and it was about human trafficking. And he gave me the play. He was like, "Look, we need a record that's about look. There's this girl. She's going through a human trafficking situation. She can't get herself out, but she
Mm-hmm.
wishes that she could get out of the situation. And it's going to take a lot to get her out of the situation." I was like, man. After explaining, he sent me a trailer of what they had shot so far, and I was like, let me see what's going on, so that way I can kind of catch a vibe and catch a feeling and see if I can just try to relate, you know. And I very often try to put myself in the shoes of the situation that it is, and that helped aid towards it as well. And it just came together, man. I sent the record off. They sent it back. It was a part of the jail scene
Wow.
that's in the film, and it definitely I felt like hit home and matched. You know, it was a good situation. So that's how that came about. House Party was like, yo, he was listening to some old school music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, man, you got to remake this joint. You got to do something like this. And I was like, well, shoot, let's make it then. Let's get in the studio though, because I was trying to get DB in the studio forever. I'm like, no, he was like, no, no, no. He don't be trying to slide through the studio. And I was like, yo, he finally slid through the studio, and we worked on the record together. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, bro, we got to do a record together, bro. We got to, just for history's
Mm-hmm.
sake. And literally an hour later, that song came out. Like the beat, at least we had the beat,
Mm-hmm.
because he was in town, and we just knocked it out. It was super late in the studio. You know what I mean? Um, the track came out fire. Next day, I had a hook on
Yes.
it. 2 days later, the song was done. I sent it to him. He was like, "Yo, mix that down. That's it. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
nothing to talk about." And then it took a natural, organic move forward. Like the record
Mm.
just kind of started moving by itself. And thank God I was in a position to kind of just help, um, just financially push the record and make it work. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the history on that. But I try to make sure that just musically, those records and even Get Her Back, you already know what that is. Oh, by the way, Get Her Back, aka GHB, is on an upcoming project I got. It's called Rap Singer Reloaded. I reloaded a bunch of songs. I redid Pony by Genuine. I redid some Boys to Men cuts on there. I redid the Twisted So Sexy record. So it's a bunch of like cuts on there. Make sure y'all watch out for that. It's about to be dropping soon. Rap Singer Reloaded. Um,
Yeah. I want to.
but
I want to hear that because I'm a big Boyz II
yeah,
Men fan. So I want
yeah.
to. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gonna know it. You gonna know. Like from the first
Yeah.
line, you gonna be like, oh, he redid that one. Like
Uh oh.
you gonna know. Yeah, I
Uh
gave it
oh.
away on the first line.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yes, sir.
When's it dropping?
I can't get a date. I can't get a
I'm
date.
ready.
But it's coming out. I'm actually I might be dropping that joint next. And that one's more
Okay.
like a it's kind of close to Save Me, but it's more like it's a ballad. You know what I mean? It's not what
Mm.
people might expect. But I feel like it fits the Boys to Men
You got me
code.
thinking
You know what I
now. I'm
mean?
kind of thinking now.
Yeah. So I kept everything true to it, but just
Hmm.
kept it me. You know what I mean? So that way people can be like, okay, then I hear the influence, but okay, I get it. I get it. You know, so just to try to push in more on it, you know, your favorite rap singer, you got to keep giving them more.
Mm. Yeah. Hey. Well, you definitely giving them more with this music that you're putting out.
Man, thank
Excuse
you.
me. But yeah. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, okay, all right. He bringing some stuff for real.
Yeah,
So
yeah, got to
yeah,
do it.
yeah. So TrackKillers. How did you come up with TrackKillers?
Man, TrackKillers is me and my boy. Again, shout out to Scarlet Ward TrackKillers. You already know what it is. We started a production team, and that started from us just. I met him in Long Beach. I was doing a show, just taking that back. It had to be like 2012, the end of 2012, 2013, and we did a show in Long Beach. He saw me perform, and then he was performing, and we linked up probably like 4 months after that. To just work on some music. He was working on a project, and I was just producing some of the songs off of there. We collabed on a couple songs. Ain't none of them songs ever came out. It's one of them situations, but yeah, I mean, later we realized we was in cutting records for ourselves. You know what I mean? We started linking up, going to some networking events, uh, and people wanted to work with us. You know what I mean? Because they kept hearing the music. You know, you press play on enough people, they would slide through, and then they wanted their own music. Um, and at the time, there was this young dude named Jordan Newt. His pops
Mm-hmm.
was Bobby Newt, and he used to be on the writing team with Tank.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they slid through and they started grabbing records from us. Rest in peace to Sam Sarpong. He came through trying to get some pop records at the time. This is when, oh my God, this is when like LMFAO. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember
Uh huh.
them
Yep.
with that party rock like was
Yep.
out, and it was going nuts. And I was like, man, everybody was doing, that threw the industry off
Yeah.
balance a
It
little bit
did.
for a second because
Yep.
we was it was just rap and R&B, and then it just went mad pop. Like when you got people
Mm-hmm.
like Ludacris doing pop records with David Guetta, and I'm like, yo, for me, I
Hey,
always felt
they
like
want that pop money.
man, but even like it took over. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
see Usher was doing pop, Ludacris was doing pop, like it's just artists you would never expect in your life that was
Right.
doing pop, EDM, dubstep records.
Yeah.
And to me, I was just like, it's all music. I don't even really hear the difference.
Mm.
I really had what was that song called? I forgot. I had one song that was like that. It was mad pop, like it was EDM-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 years before it was popular to do
Wow.
that. So everybody
Yeah.
thought I was being extra weird with the sound, but I felt like I was just trying to do some different version, like of a
Mm-hmm.
Timberland twist. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Of like a sexy back, but like EDM version.
Mm.
Um, and it was before its time, but in that time, like the switch on everything. So I feel like this music altogether is just like it's one big pile or
Yeah.
whatever. It's all on the same 12 keys in the end of the day.
The same 12 keys. Right. Right. You just have a keyboard, just a 12 key keyboard, and that's all you need right there. well, look. They used to say that DJ Mustard only his keyboard was like 6 keys because he would just use the same.
Hey, that you know what? And that may be true. I
That
feel
may
like
be
you know
true.
what? It may be true, but at the end of the day, he got that bag though.
Hey,
He got that
that's
bag
right.
though. He
That's right.
secured the bag. That's all it's about. I don't care if you use
Mm.
one key. Figure out how to do it. You know what I
Figure out how to
mean?
do
But
it.
yeah, so I don't. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There's different levels to it. I look at it like basketball.
Hmm.
Everybody can't shoot threes. Everybody can't hold down the center and dunk. Everybody can't be Shaq. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. Everybody
it all
can't.
has its pieces.
Everybody
Yeah,
can't, and everybody has to identify. And I'm glad you said that because everybody has to identify where they're really strong at. I had a conversation with someone before, and we were talking about really identifying your strengths. And I knew for me, because I produce too, but I know for
yeah,
me that production maybe not be my strongest suit. I mean, I could crank out some fire, but it may not be where my true skill set really is. And I've had to really think about where that was and operate in that, my true skill set. So I think that's important because I think everybody today tries to play every role, and you may not be able to
yeah,
play every single role. That's
yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
yeah. That's just my thought. I don't think
Yeah,
you can play every role.
yeah. I always knew my strong suit was the keys. You know what I mean? Just
Mm-hmm.
being a musician. You know what I mean? And often, you have a lot of musicians that are really super stupid dope at being a musician, but when it's time to be a producer, it doesn't translate all the time.
Right.
And I felt like I was lucky. I felt I learned more and more and more and more over time. Shout out to Mark Knox again because he kind of instilled drums, just drums. Your drums got to
Mm-hmm.
slap. They got to knock.
They got to
They got
slap.
to knock. Yeah, because I always had the
Mm-hmm.
chords, always. But then it's like I mean, you already know, like as a piano player, you want to do you putting all the little chords in there, but the drums don't be matching. It's like, yo, he's like, start with the drums.
Mm.
So that helped me translate over. And then my ear has always leaned more towards older music. I'm a Prince
Mm-hmm.
fan. Like when people ask me the question, they say, who you more a fan of, Michael Jackson or Prince? I'm like, man, that's a hard question to
That's not
answer.
even a
If
fair
you
question either,
talking
but
Yeah, if you talking about music, just music, Prince. He plays the guitar. Like
mm.
I have to. Like it's a different vibe. Like I like Stevie Wonder, I like Ray Charles, I like Prince. I like the musical artists because they brought a different um, light to the whole
Mm-hmm.
situation. I feel like Michael Jackson was a crazy performer, but then you got songs like Butterflies. I mean, this man had like 7 stacks, 8 stacks on the vocals going crazy. Like that song is crazy. But to me, that was like neo soul, and I'm like I like Lettucey, I like Jill Scott, I like Robert
Mm-hmm.
Glasper, I like Dwele, Raheem, Avant. You know what I mean? Like Mint
Mm-hmm.
Condition. So I'm coming from that, and then huge Teddy Riley fan. You know what I mean?
Hey,
And then that's a whole nother story too. I got the chance to meet him at his house, which is crazy. That was like on my bucket list, but yeah,
you know
huge
what?
Teddy
That
Riley
was on
fan.
my list too. And I had a chance to meet Teddy, and I did some filming for Teddy when he was here in Atlanta, getting prepared for his what was the thing he was getting prepared for the Road to Essence festival that he did. Was it
Yeah,
last year?
yeah.
Yeah, and that was how I met DB. Was at
Oh
was
yeah,
at the
yeah, yeah,
was at the
yeah.
Teddy
Yeah,
Riley
he was
thing.
helping
Yep,
him with that. Yeah,
yep, yep. And that's how I met him because he was there, and we talked about how he was from St. Louis. And I was like, yo, I just moved from St. Louis, and but yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's how I met him. So speaking of that, man. So how did you meet DB? Right? I mean, DB is your current manager. So how did you really meet him?
shout out to Chris
Mm.
Clutch Heights. He had a connect, and he made it happen, man. We had
Mm-hmm.
some different things going on in the technology, and we linked up based off of that. So in 2018, this is the whole finance piece. We're gonna jump all over, but in 2018 of April, I had took TrackKillers Entertainment, which is a production company. We took it public on the stock market,
Word.
and that was my first taste of like being like literally on the other side. I feel like a lot of people as consumers and as just investors in the industry will invest on the front end on just common. They call it common stock, and that's what everybody buys. But then on
Mm-hmm.
the backside, you have preferred stock. Anti-dilutable preferred stock. In different series, you got series A, B, C, and D. And I was on the other
Mm.
side of that to see how it is to actually, uh, you basically have to form that stock. You have to formulate it, register with the SEC and FINRA. You actually have to put that stock out and then issue it to the stockholders. So I got the chance
Mm.
to work from a company from the opposite end on what it's like to issue the stock,
Wow.
and be a part of a company from the other side, following the financial disclosures, make sure we're keeping that up
Mm-hmm.
quarterly, and many different things. And I learned a lot about financial structure, money, and how it works and flows. But
Wow.
that's basically what we met Teddy about, and it was about TrackKillers. To this day, right now, I still ain't launched it all the way, but I have
Mm.
a platform. It's a music licensing platform called TrackKillers. TrackKillers.com, exactly how it sounds. Spell everything grammatically correct. Um, and my whole concept, yeah, somebody gonna
Yeah,
think it's
no,
a
no,
Z in there.
no, no
Track Killers with
Z,
a Z.
no Z, no
Mm-mm.
A,
Yeah,
right?
Track Killers. So with that, that's what we met over, and I had this whole pitch ready to just be like, "Yo, the reason that you should join our company is this and that and this and that and woo
Mm.
woo woo and this and the third." And I was like, you know what? This is literally on my bucket list. If this conversation goes nowhere, I'm more than excited just to be here meeting the Teddy Riley in his home.
Hmm.
And that was enough for me. You know what I mean? Like that was
Right.
it. But the conversation really, when I was sitting in front of him, I couldn't even bring myself to have that conversation. I was like, you know what? This is about legacy at this
Mm.
point. I just want to be a part of the legacy. Like we could talk business. I'm sure you're doing business out the wazoo. You do not need
Hmm.
me for none of that stuff. And I'm just another person, at the end of the day. But I think that legacy is more important than another business deal.
Mm.
And that's when I kind of, again, at this point, I'm exposed to stock. So my mindset thinks different. I think about publishing. I think about streaming royalties and streaming platforms as digital real estate. I don't think
Hmm.
about it as like another song going out. If you look at actual real estate and you imagine you have 10 to 20 deeds to homes, you know what I mean, that you probably got wholesale. You can start a real estate company. You know what I mean? You get property management, you get somebody in those houses, you can rent them out, you can sell them, you can flip them. And I look at the music the exact same way. Like,
Mm.
it's about digital real estate. It's not about like trying so hard to get another placement or another single or another. Just create a platform where you can do as much of that as humanly possible and track everything that you do. At that time, I didn't have the most important piece of the technology I needed back then. I got it
Mm.
now, which is a whole nother story. And I'll kind of allude to that as well. But at the time, he's like, man, he said something crazy. It was a crazy number. I don't remember exactly, but he's like, I have like 10 terabytes of sounds and music. Now, the producer side of me is like, bro, 10
10
terabytes of
terabytes.
music? Music. He's like, I've been probably doing music longer than you've been alive.
Yeah. That's
And
almost how he talks too.
yeah, no, he talks very like
Yeah.
it's almost like a whisper all the time.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yep.
oh, I've been doing music for a long time. I have records with, and he goes on a list of people, and I'm like
Yes.
spazzing out at this point. I'm like, bro, I got to hear these records. Yo, forget this whole meeting. I need
Forget
to
this
hear some
meeting.
of
I
these
need.
records.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, man, I have sounds. I have thousands, tens of
Mm.
thousands of sounds. And he's like, but how are you going to track it? And I was like, I did not have that answer for you right now. I have not the slightest idea. It's not trackable yet.
Mm.
And that led into like a whole nother journey and spell of different chases that I went on
Mm.
becoming, my road to chasing after becoming a music aggregator. So to become TuneCore and have
Mm.
that capability delivering to the DSPs, which I guess I'm spoiling the might as well put it out
Uh
there.
oh.
That is the case right now. I'm keeping that in a label format right now.
Wow.
So I'm handpicking artists on my DJ Khaled type vibes and producing those records just for those artists that's going to be under the company, financing them, putting them out as my own music aggregator. So I don't go through anybody. So I don't go through TuneCore. I don't go through none of the
Wow.
masters. I put my last joint on DistroKid. That's it. Like at this point, I
Mm.
am them. So now I'm coming from the other way. I got daily trends. I got I can see stuff real time. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I'm working on is 24-hour real time stats. So most of these
Wow.
DSPs they'll provide you'll distribute something. It comes out 3 months later. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And then every month you'll get your new statement. But I have a formula. I have a platform to where it's actually utilizing blockchain technology, which a lot of people thought would never be able to be the case, but it does, as of right now,
Wow.
utilize blockchain technology and giving 24-hour stats and real-time stats as far as your streaming. So if you imagine if you could see every little stat that comes out
Mm-hmm.
on your streaming, every little penny, just like when you break down the the intricate stats. If you open up DistroKid or you open up TuneCore and they give you like all the little pennies based on streams and the different platforms that you had, you'll be able to see that real time on the blockchain, real time. So if you made 42 cents today, you'll be able to see on the chain where it came from, delivery from the DSPs, and underwriting the actual streamer royalties to deliver it out within 24 hours instead of 30 days.
Wow, brother.
Oh man.
Brother. So here's the thing. Who's thinking on that level? You know what I mean?
I feel like it's a lot of people thinking it. I just feel like it's not a lot of people trying to execute it. I feel like the conversation has been had a million times. You know, if you just search blockchain and music online, it's out there. You know what I mean? I just don't think that people actually legitimately went towards it. And that's a whole nother story in itself. But for a quick second, I had jumped into blockchain and cryptocurrency, and I learned how to code it. You know what I mean? Like I know how to like code tokens. I know how to code smart contracts.
Wow.
And that's one of the things I started doing with my company Next Inc. Because I took a year off from music in 2019, and just like, you know what, I need to learn, because I was a big Ryan Leslie fan. So he attributed to a lot of this.
I know.
Superphone, shout out to him. Shout out to all the moves that he made.
Yes.
And just blazing the trail that he did. So I was like, man, I need to do something like that. That's the difference. I need to make something to where I can control it, where I have foresight and I can guide it and push it where it needs to go. And I didn't have a lot of the elements then, but I took the time and I learned how to do that. And I still grow every day, even now, on that, and learn something new. But I got the general concept because, again, remember, I had the public company, so I seen stock from the other side. So I'm like, man, but what if you could do this with streaming? What if you could do this with publishing? And there was a lot of mountains you had to climb, because with publishing, it's not just one person. You know, it's a makeup of many different platforms, many different
that's true.
Publishing companies, many different people who have to actually deliver that money. You got to make a bunch of phone calls. As a publisher, there's a lot of pieces that go into that to actually get that money to ASCAP, to BMI, to CSAC, etc. But I was like, man, it's possible. That's the thing, though. If ACH exists with Visa and MasterCard, that's all blockchain is. It's just a big database. It's a ledger system. That's all it is at the end of the day. And if you do any type of, because I do cloud work as well, so I do web design development and cloud architecture using Google Cloud and Amazon AWS, et cetera. So I'm like, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So if you can find a way to get, when DSPs, Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify, et cetera, pay out, or you know that these streams equal this amount of money, it's not impossible to get a bank to underwrite that money that's actually coming from this multi-billion-dollar company that they have to deliver based on copyright rules and streaming rules, et cetera, to get that underwritten if you have a lot of people doing the exact same thing. Could you imagine how many creatives are on TuneCore? Too many. So if I can go to a bank, if you're a Bank of America, and I can say, look, I make this much monthly. Can you underwrite this and give me the money ahead of time? Like credit, almost like a line of credit.
Yeah, it's like a credit.
But it's based on it's based on active cash flow that's coming from third-party multi-billion-dollar companies. It's not like it's just cash flow from running a store online. You know, it's a big difference. And they have those tiers when you're at that point. So that's basically what I got a part of. It comes with a wallet. You can literally transfer your publishing, like, bam. Like, if I wanted to send you publishing of a song that I own that's distributed through my platform, I can send it to you just like I can send you Ethereum or Bitcoin. That fast. And every other future streaming will come to you and not me.
Wow.
Just like that. Just like that. So I was like, if we could put song ownership on the blockchain the same way that we have ACH going through a system. And a lot of people will ask me, well, how does it work? I'm like, okay, first of all, I can tell you how it works. I basically just said it like 3 or 4 times in this interview. But when we swipe Visa cards at the store, do we necessarily know how it goes from the stripper of the card to the machine through the ACH system and reports to your bank to release the funds? We don't. But
all we're looking at is that thing that says, is it approved or denied? Like, say approve, please. Like, okay,
that's
cool.
It.
That's it.
And it ain't nothing but a ledger system. So if it's like, for anybody that probably works at a bank, they would probably look at it as that. Because if you're working as a banker and you look at different accounts within Bank of America or Wells Fargo, Chase, wherever they may work, you can see everyone's account, everybody's past history with that bank. looking at, if you go to etherscan.io, it's the same way. You can see everybody's whole everything. You can see all of their actions that they took, every transaction they ever made. You imagine that a song plays on the radio and you can see every play, but every dollar amount attached to that play real time. Just imagine that.
Wow.
Imagine you can look at your phone and be like, it's playing on 8 stations right now nationally, and I just got $1.29 per play, each one. Boom, 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 boom. But imagine now that the record labels can see that as well, because it's a public ledger, it's blockchain. They can see the song, they can see who owns it. Just like you can see a wallet transfer one token to another wallet, it's the same way. You can see the song, ownership, percentage of that song that that person owns, and they could transfer it, or you can see all the payments that entered that smart contract for that song. So that's what I have right now.
Man, you're about to be a multimillionaire, brother.
Man,
Easily.
I pray for it. I mean, I always told people all I want to do is make $100,000 a year off the music. Anything else is a blessing from God, but
wow.
That search came from that moment in 2018 and just taking TrackKillers public for a moment. It's not public anymore because we unwound, because they sold that whole company, and I didn't want to be a part of something where I didn't know who owned the umbrella company. So that turned into a whole nother situation that, you know, I can't speak too much on, but I didn't want to be a part of that no more. So we unwound, which basically releases the company from the bigger company. So we were no longer a subsidiary of that company. And we went back private. So but man, that experience to this day, it's kept me to this day. Like to this day, I still operate in blockchain. I still fiddle around with other cryptocurrencies as investments. I'm heavy in stock all the time, every day. I'm watching the stock market every single day. So it's just, I can't go back. I can't erase it from my mind. So it's like now my next moves has been like, okay, let's apply this. It's not impossible. I just don't know how to do it. And that backtracking, that led into my whole journey of learning how to do things on the web, learning cloud architecture, learning databases, learning BigQuery, learning like just a bunch of tools that's actually needed to deploy all of this mess and legitimately make it work. And, you know, right now, my upcoming album that I'm working on is probably that's gonna be the first project that I released through that system, and we're gonna see how it goes.
Hey, you gotta have, you know, that the proof that, and this would be your proof. I forgot the actual term they use and I'm sure you know what it is, but pretty much it's proving that the system works the way that you design the system to work. Right.
Yeah, so like that beta or social
so that when you go to initial investors, then you can kind of have that data to kind of show them that the system does work the way that you designed it to work, and how they can benefit and how others can benefit from it. Man, genius. That's ingenious right there. That's the
man, just to touch on that too, because you said something, but it's one of those things. I started through that as far as like searching for $1 million investors. Only when it took a collaboration of different people, kind of like you tapped me on the head, like, bro, like you don't need investors for that. You just need that out. Because now imagine this. Have you heard of Start Engine?
I have.
So Start Engine allows you to go invest in pre-IPO companies before they go public and get some of their private stock. But imagine House Party is that. And it will be that, because I'm going to transfer it over to the system. And imagine at this point, I publicly, just like a public company, just like you take a company public, file your disclosures, file your paperwork, file your subsidiary paperwork under an umbrella company, and go public on the stock market and get your symbol, right? Imagine that House Party becomes that 2 months from now. And you could publicly buy pieces of House Party in fractions or in full percentages. And now all of the pub or streaming that's now coming to that song goes to you. And it's a smart contract, so it can be set for a term. So imagine for 1 year, you get 5% of all of the streaming, all of the actual publishing, all of the actual broadcast royalties going to you for 1 year. And then after that 1 year is up, it goes away. But let's just say you're a music licenser. Let's say you're Tyler Perry. Let's say you put that song and license it through your own stream of movie lines. Now
Mm-hmm.
that song you forced it, you manufactured it to generate more revenue than what I was probably going to generate by myself. So you put
Mm.
it in movies for the term that you own that percentage. But imagine if Sprite could do that. Imagine if Coca-Cola could do that. Imagine if McDonald's could do that from the other end. Imagine if they really was actively every day, just how they are on the stock market, actively involved in the stock market of music.
Genius,
That's
brother. That's
music hasn't gone there yet. It's
bro.
too
That's
tight.
bro. That's ingenious. That'll change the entire platform of how we do business today within this music industry.
And it's
That's
needed.
that's a
It's
game
needed.
changer. That is a complete game changer. And I guess it begs the question to ask: do you think that publishers and record labels are, with their current mentality, are ready for that?
I don't know that it's about being ready, right? I
Mm,
think that, and this is one thing I've learned of just maturing over time, of trying to convince people to be ready of something that's may seem too far ahead or everybody's
mm-hmm.
not using yet. And I've been in those meetings, I've been on those phone calls with people you would never believe. I still don't believe it to this day. But it's the one thing I learned is you don't. If I came to your house with a suitcase full of gold, I don't necessarily need to tell everybody. I just need to show you the case. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing with technology. When when you look at Spotify, the same person who created Spotify was shot down for creating a downloading site.
Mm.
So it's like he's the same guy. He just came back and did it to the rules, and he came
Right.
back with Spotify. And now y'all want to work with him. But
Wow.
before you was hitting him with copyright infringements back to back to back to back, shut down his whole thing. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, it's the same thing. I feel like record labels, just like how we switched into iTunes from CDs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yep.
think that they were ready for that, but I think they saw the value in it. Just how we went from iTunes to streaming. When Spotify
Right.
had first came out, the first 3 to 4 years, they didn't even care about Spotify until Spotify started adding adverts to the
Mm.
platform and started adding advertising into the point where they could actually pay out royalties to other
Mm-hmm.
artists. Next thing you know, they had 1 million records on the whole platform. Then we
Wow.
seen that been a phase. SoundCloud did the same thing. Apple did the same thing, and Apple really was Beats Music. So yeah, Dr. Dre and
Yeah.
his whole
Yep.
deal. You know what I mean? They dissolved Beats Music, and next thing you know, you got Apple Music because he hit
Mm-hmm.
the streaming thing heavy before they did.
Right.
That's when they were talking about leaving iTunes and going to streaming. So
Mm-hmm.
we got to give him credit too. You know what I mean? He did his deal. He made his situation work for himself, which was epic for the moment. But that's a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation in itself. So it's just kind of like it's. I feel like, are they ready? I don't think it's about them being ready. I think it's about the technology presenting itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's showing a use case where it works for someone. It doesn't
Mm.
have to be a huge artist. If
It just
again,
has to
if
work.
I bring us, it just has to work. If I
Yep.
bring a suitcase full of gold to your house, I don't have to convince you. I just have to pop the case open.
Right.
So if I bring that same application, that wallet, and I share it with you, and you be like, "Nah, bro, it exists. I seen it. No, I saw it. I actually own a percentage of the song right now."
Mm.
Like now, you just scale it. That's where investors
Mm.
and the sharks come in because they see the opportunity. They see the scale
Right.
case. It's not
That's
the fact
right.
that you need the investor. It's the fact that I see the scale case. They may not even be interested in investing. They be like, well, based on how it's built, well, we don't need to invest in you personally. It just needs to be
Mm-hmm.
used. And that's a lot like blockchain. No, blockchain doesn't necessarily need people to invest into Bitcoin per se
Mm-hmm.
as an investment. It just needs to be used every day, all
Mm.
day. 24 hours a day.
Mm.
Now it's used by millions of people. It's in the billions in value every day, every
That's
24
right.
hours. If you do the same thing with publishing, you do the same thing with streaming royalties. I don't even got a talented bone in my body, but I got $10,000 in the bank and I go spend 2,500 on buying some streaming royalties.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a
Yo,
normal, just a pretend I'm a
that is
normal
so
human being,
crazy.
but I buy 10% of, let's not even a big artist. Let's say like Mulatto right now. Let's say I
Mm-hmm.
buy 10%. Boom, I get 10% or 1% of a Cardi B record. I get 1% of a Beyonce back catalog record.
Yeah. Look.
I just sit on that. I'm gonna make money.
I'm trying
It's
to do that now.
Beyonce, bro. Like it's and I people will say, well, that's too far ahead for it to. Oh, we got to stop saying that.
Yeah,
I got the
gotta stop.
technology. I got the technology right now.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
gotta stop
thing.
saying
It's
that.
not far ahead. And we
Mm-hmm.
do, because it's like, it's just right now. So even people who don't mess with blockchain or don't mess with cryptocurrency, I said something, right? And I said, you know, it's a very tough space, right? Because you'll get people who get into it, they don't understand it all the way. They get
Mm-hmm.
into it too fast. They get mad because or frustrated because they may not make the best decisions, getting into that space. And you have some people
Mm-hmm.
who just win even though they didn't understand it. I went through that in the early stages. I made some bad decisions. I lost money, but then I gained money as well. So
Mm.
it's kind of like, I feel like understanding the concept of knowing that you have this item that can
Mm-hmm.
increase or decrease in price. If I am a music aggregator and you're supposed to, let's just pretend you're an artist and you're supposed to get $10,000 in streaming royalties this month, but they only give you the streaming royalties and sit it into basically kind of like an escrow account until you pull it out through PayPal, etc.
Right.
Most people. But imagine if you could have the choice and be like, well, what if you can make that 10,000, 20,000?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody say not possible. It's possible
It's possible.
because it's
I mean, we do it every day with. I mean, we do it every
well,
day with
look at
stock.
look okay, but what they'll say is streaming is not a stock right now, right? But then I said, look at what if I gave you the choice to take your streaming royalties in the form of Ethereum?
Mm.
Let's just back up near 2 months ago now when ETH was about at 190.
Mm-hmm.
ETH is near $400 today. That's
Wow.
double. So you tell me your $10,000 in streaming royalties just turned into 20,000, give or take, dollars
Mm-hmm.
because of the form that you took it in.
Mm.
So let's
Brother.
use a bigger person like Beyonce and say she's supposed to get 10 million this month. She now has 20 million because of
Mm-hmm.
the form that she took her royalties in. This happens every single day in business. It happens every single day on the stock market.
Sure
You
does.
get a real estate investment trust with a 30% return dividend on it every quarter. You sit 10,000 there, compound interest, done. But you can't
Mm.
do that with streaming royalties. I feel like financial literacy is a conversation piece that's needed so bad in
So
this music
bad.
industry
So bad.
that it is almost near non-existent.
Mm-hmm. You know why?
You ask,
Because people are so caught up with, and I think you said this earlier, caught up with placements and who's the next artist I could work with, or what's the next song that I could put out, and that's their focus, and it's so sometimes so narrow that they
yeah,
lose sight of everything else, and they don't really understand that it is a business, but man, what you're talking about is still business, but it is at a higher level, and that's what I was getting to, is at a higher level than what I think most people are even considering at this point. They are rare. This is a rarity when you have a person, you may have the guy like at Spotify, Ryan Leslie, yourself, and there are other people out there doing it or considering it or even trying to implement it, but that's not the majority.
I think that, okay, let's look at it right now. How many people buy stock as of right now?
A gazillion people. I'm sure. I mean,
But
I,
how
I buy
many
stock.
every okay, but how many everyday citizens,
Mm,
most everyday citizens have
probably don't.
never ever
Right.
bought a stock in their life. They've never
Mm-hmm.
had a brokerage firm ever. And that's not any pun intended. It's just that this now gets into a whole nother conversation. We have not been,
Mm-hmm.
especially as a black culture, we have not been exposed to these things in business.
Nope.
We have not been exposed to real estate from the other end.
Nope.
Most of us, there's a lot of black people
Mm-hmm.
who definitely on that, and we're picking that up as a culture heavy, especially in the South. Like, it's heavy.
Right.
But I feel like that should be one of the things that they teach in school. You know what I mean? Teaching
Mm-hmm.
stocks should be one of the things they teach in school. Teaching ETFs and real estate investment trusts should be one of the things that they teach in
Mm-hmm.
school. Teaching compound interest should be
But
like
they
high school.
teaching.
This should be,
But they
yeah,
teaching
like,
like some other crazy weird stuff.
Well,
in
they're
school?
teaching you how to be an employee. I mean, that's really, really what it is.
Ooh.
I mean,
Ooh.
if we just call a
Yes.
spade, you go to school to be a good employee.
Mm.
You go to college and take certain terms and actions to become a possible entrepreneur or innovator. But you don't need to go to college to be an innovator. Do I feel
Right.
like it helps? Yes. I feel like college. I didn't go to college. I didn't get that chance. But I went back and I learned a lot of stuff. I took a bunch of classes. Like I said, I started doing tech.
Mm-hmm.
I started taking tech classes. I started getting my certificates. I'm going through Google Cloud training right now. Like I'm
Mm.
taking Harvard courses right now on EDX. So it's just kind of like
Mm.
it's it's that's a conscious decision to be an
Right.
entrepreneur. Like you don't have to go have someone tell you in a classroom to be a boss. You have to
Right.
make a conscious decision and be disciplined enough to say, hey, I want this for my life. Let me find out the information that I need to execute these things because the answers are
Mm.
all out there. I'm not extra special. I just took the time, discipline myself, and learn the information that I needed and execute it. I got tired along the way for sure. There's plenty
Mm-hmm.
of times where I'm like, man, forget all of this. I'm cool off all of this. I ain't trying to do
Like I
no.
ain't
That
trying to do
mess is
none of it.
gibberish. I am not learning that mess. But at the same time, I said like, well, if I don't, who am I really hurting? I'm only holding myself back from my full potential. So
Mm.
even to this day, I learn everything, learn more. At some point, it's all just information. Some people have
Right.
more information than others. That's why they say knowledge is power. Knowledge is actually real power. If you have the
Mm.
knowledge on how to turn water into certain things, you have a certain power. If you have the ability to take money and turn it into success, you have a certain power. If you have the ability to turn knowledge into money without no money, you have
Mm.
a certain power. If you have influence to impact lives and help somebody and change their direction, you have a certain power. So
Mm.
knowledge is power. I feel like how you use it and give it to the world and create impact is that.
I think that's the thing. I mean, I've heard the phrase you just said it. Knowledge is power, but I think that there's another level to that. It's because I know a lot of people who have the knowledge, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't do it. But they don't do anything with it. So I have the phrase that yep, knowledge is power. As we have the phrase, but applied knowledge is power, because not only do I have the knowledge, but I'm literally applying and implementing what I know. So let's say I didn't know how to turn water into, let's say water into wine, right? So we had a conversation earlier. Let's say I know how to turn water into wine, but I never do anything. I
Mm-hmm.
never do any of it, right? Then it's not
Yeah,
benefiting anybody. It's not benefiting me.
at
It's not
all.
benefiting anybody else, at the wedding who may be thirsty for wine. But if I apply what
Yeah,
I know and actually physically go do it, and then
yeah,
everybody else can enjoy what I know from my applied knowledge. And I think once we get to that point where we can apply what we know, and there's people out there doing it today, but if we can start to apply what we know, then we can start to see the fruits from that and the impact it has in other people's lives. Man, brother,
absolutely.
man, brother, we
Yeah,
have been talking about. Man, that is so intriguing that how your mind works and at the level that it works at. And I know we've been talking for some time, over an hour. And I don't want to hold you up because look,
no,
shoot,
I'm good. I got
shoot,
the whole day.
I may just call you and we may just have this conversation, or we may just even come back as a second part of the interview. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but there is something I am going to call you about though, and talk to you about, because I do a monthly. We have our first one coming up next week. I am
Mm-hmm.
doing a monthly panel that I call the conversation, and the conversation happens every month on a specific topic, and you just pretty much put something in my head to talk about, like financial literacy and technology within the music community. So I'm gonna pick your brain
It's
about that.
important.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick your brain about
Yes,
that a little bit
sir.
later. But man, so let me ask you, so we can wrap up. So I know you can probably, I see you in the studio. You probably want to cook up some
I'm
stuff.
good. I'm good on time, man. I'm good. I'm here.
Man, so
Yeah.
so so let me ask you, what advice would you give anyone that want to get into this whole music business? What would you really tell them?
Um. Well, stereotypically, I would say keep God first, which is definitely It makes a difference. Even if you don't know God, find him. Like it's gonna make all the difference because you're gonna go through things. You're gonna go through highs. You're gonna go through lows, and you gotta stay grounded. You gotta keep real people around you. You can't keep yes men around you. You gotta keep real people who will tell you when you trash, when your music is trash, when that line is trash. People who will keep it 1,000 with you because you got to be 1,000 with yourself before you can even be 50% with anybody else. So you need that, and you need financial literacy. I feel like it should be almost like a thing. Just how you can't even go to college per se the normal way if you don't finish high school. I feel like this music game, for the sake of the creatives and having a more diverse and more enhanced platform, that it take a bare minimum financial something because it's almost like I know right now how to turn $100 into $4,000 in a week.
Wow.
I didn't used to know how to do that. I know I can take 10,000 and turn it into, using compound interest, 30,000, if not more, before the year is out. Because most times we come to LA, and I'm fault of this too. You chase the record labels, you chase it for a deal, for the money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I need the money right now so I can do music how I really need to do it. I need 20, like 30,000, all this stuff costs. I need 5,000 for a music video. I need 5,000 for studio time. I need this, I need that. But you can get that on your own if you take the time, be disciplined, just learn money. Because that's not all about money. You know what I mean? There's artists who have just put great music out and it took off, but that's, 3% of the time. You know what I mean? Like that's not the majority case. If we're not being in denial and just speaking on the reality, most artists have to do much more to obtain that. It takes much more. It takes a team. But the labels know how to move around money. The banks know how to move around money. The promoters know how to move around money. The clubs know how to move around money. The managers, the agents know how to move around money. But somehow, when we get to the artists, they don't know how to move around money. Therefore, they always need the money. Therefore, you end up in most times cases or deals or situations that you may not know that you're opting into. And that comes from financial literacy. It comes from music literacy, too. I think that every artist should know what is streaming. What are the different streaming royalty rates per platform? Like, who pays the most? Tidal. Shout out to Tidal. Y'all doing good over there. And
Tidal,
in spite of everything that's going on.
That's right.
I need that sponsorship. Hook a brother up. But no, shout out to them. No, they did reach out to me before. So they doing their thing at the end of the day. As far as like the creation side, and just I would say that be grounded in your information. It will save you from a lot of buffoonery and goofy people if you just learn financial literacy and learn music literacy. Learn what publishing is. Where does it come from? Learn what streaming royalties are. How do they get the rate? Why does advertising play a factor? Why do they need free accounts and premium accounts? How much do I get paid from the premium versus the free account? Like, utilize, oh my God. And this one thing, if you don't take nothing else from this interview, if you're an artist and you're out there doing it right now and you're like, man, I can't get a million views. I can't get 100,000 views. I can't get no viewership. Ain't nobody listen to my music. Advertising. Google. Ads.google.com. I'm giving free game right now. This is free.
Free game.
Business.facebook.com. Stop hating on Facebook. Because first of all, if you're on the gram, you're using Facebook. Just take that away. The reason why other artists have more streams than you is because they are using Facebook. Their record labels use Facebook. How do they apply? Facebook, you set up an ad to run on Instagram. You should use Facebook, even if it's just to get data. And what I mean by that is getting people's information, getting your first 1,000 fans. I have 7,000 people right now that I can text right now from Facebook ad. So if somebody gave you $5,000, I spent about $3,700 to get 7,000 people. And people might say 7,000 people ain't enough. Bro, if somebody left 7,000 comments on your next video, that's not enough.
Right.
If you sell 300 tickets to your next event, that's not enough. At $20 a piece, that's the type of people that they're signing. So, and it's it's just math. So if 3,700 equals 7,000, if you scale and keep going and make that campaign bigger, let it run, spend more money. If I spent $37,000, I have 70,000 people.
Right.
That's the Staples Center only fits 18,000 people in it. So just picture that. That's multiple Staples Centers worth of people that you can text from the future now on, and you know
That's
everybody's
right.
first and last name, email, and phone number. That's the beauty. That's what I took from Ryan Leslie. I took
Yeah.
that, ran with it. Don't be mad at me, Ryan, but reverse engineered the process. If you ever see this interview, reverse engineered the process based off of what you did, and
Mm.
using Twilio for SMS contact information. And at the time, it was just Gumroad and Superphone. But uh,
Wow.
uh, just taking that and be like, yo, Twilio gives you the power to be Verizon.
Mm. Mm.
Twilio gives you the power to be Verizon, to be T-Mobile.
Wow.
So taking that, run a ad. If you want YouTube views, run a ad. Target those people. And for the
That's
people who
right.
say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do it organic. That's cheating. It's not cheating because that's exactly
It's
what they're
not
going to
cheating.
do if you
And
sign
that's,
to a label.
brother, and that's exactly what they do. They do that today in labels. You think it doesn't happen like it used to. We don't have the level of street teams that we used to have. We're now in a digital age, right? And so now they have figured out ways to use digital marketing for the advancement of artists. Labels do it every single day.
Man, and I say thank God. You know why? Because I tell you, thank God. I'm glad I was born in the era I was born in because I went through the CD phase. I used to have
Hmm.
CD burners. I
Yeah.
used to
Oh
have
yeah,
to
me
go to
too.
Walmart, get the sticky papers, put the CDs in
You
there,
know,
burn them.
that's
I
right.
only had a two. I had a two burner. I only had two CDs at a time. I had to do 100+ CDs. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get the 7 bays till later. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
you had to put in real work. But to say that if I could spend an hour on a YouTube video, learn how to do Facebook advertising. And for people who don't know how to do it, you can go on Facebook and look up Facebook advertisement certificate. Facebook advertisement certificate. It's
Mm.
free. This is free education. You can get certified for free. And for the person who may not have a job, because this all applies to what would you say to somebody getting started? Get your money up. This is free. If you go on LinkedIn right now, somebody just laughed. There's 600 million people on LinkedIn that are professionals, industry professionals. If you look up Facebook marketing, the median dollar amount per salary per year starts at $122,000 per year for
Brother.
something you can obtain for free. Facebook certificates for marketing is
Wow.
free. The bottom tier job you can get is 100,000 plus per year. You don't need any help per se at that point financially, and it gives you a little bit more freedom so you can do the bare minimum things you need to do. You're gonna upgrade your lifestyle. You're gonna upgrade your clothes. You're gonna upgrade the car, the house, and different things.
your lifestyle
And
and clothing.
you're gonna be a little bit more free in the mind. I had to do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what tech did for me. But when I started paying
Mm.
attention to those things, and shout out to my pops, you know what I mean? Because he been doing tech forever, like literally
Mm.
my entire life. So he exposed me more to that, and he made a statement. He's like, son, if you could apply at that time, I wasn't making crazy money off the music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm still not making crazy money off the music. I make the most of my money from technology, and I just do music and live my life how I want to live it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And with that, he said, "Look, there's not a lot of creatives per se, music creatives in the tech space. There's
Yeah,
not a
there's
lot
not.
of Ryan Leslie's that are Mark Zuckerbergs. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of there's not a lot of Gucci names that's Warren Buffett's.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of that. So if you take your music crap and go over here and learn technology the same way you applied yourself to learn Pro Tools back and forth. She always says that because I've been using Pro Tools since like Pro Tools Pro Tools 5, like when it was the little blue box. And he's like, apply yourself and learn this. Just give yourself a year, I promise. And I was like, nah, I'm trying to hear that. I'm trying to hear that. I'm trying to hear that. And I did that back in 2019. And when I tell you, it made the complete difference. Like my life entirely. You know what I mean? So that same 30,000 I would chase to try to get a deal, a single deal, for I can finance myself now. Thank God, thank God. And it's just,
Yes,
but
sir.
it's from those tactics. You know, apply yourself. So if you're new, if you're an artist, do not feel like you cannot go get a job. And when I say job, I don't mean some whack job like where you just kind of like hate your life. I'm saying if you're at least gonna hate your life working a job, hate your life making six figures
Some
a
money,
year.
making some money. That's right.
Yeah, because you'll hate it a lot less. You know what I mean? You at least be like,
Mm-hmm.
well, shoot, I get paid $8,000 a month, so who cares? So it's like that's the first step. And again, it's free. It's free. This hasn't
Free.
cost you yet. I'm not saying go to school for 2 years, go get a bachelor's, come out and work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna burn so much time, your creative vibe may be
Yeah,
gone.
it's gonna be
I'm
crazy.
saying Facebook, you can take the next 30 days, and the only thing that's stopping you from doing this is if you're 6 feet under, God forbid. That's the only thing
Mm.
stopping you from doing that. But if you still alive and breathing and kicking, Facebook advertisement certificate, get that. Get on Solo Learn and learn bare minimum HTML, CSS, something. Start making websites. There's people out there paying $10,000 for websites. There's people that pay $8,000+ for websites per month. Like it's it's to just how music has different tools to make it more obtainable for streaming and things of that nature. Right now, it's it's the same way on the business side as well. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
I would say just apply yourself every way possible that you can. Don't overlook something or think that something's beneath you. That could be the very stepstone that you need to
That's right.
elevate your dreams.
That's right. Man, that's amazing words of wisdom. There's so many gems that are things I didn't even know. Things I'm about to go look up.
Man, thank you.
Things I'm about to go look up as soon as we're done, because I need that, 120 plus a year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna figure
Everybody
that out, like for
gotta
on
get
for
it.
real.
Yeah.
But man, so let's close out, brother. So where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you? They want to find out about your music. Where do they have access?
I'm always on the gram. If you really, 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 really want to reach me, I'm always on my website, YFRSofficial.com. It uses SMS technology, so I do get every phone number, I get every name. I'm reachable. You know, I get on there, I message all the time, I check it every single day. Um, I'm on the gram YFRS official. Same thing. If you Google me YFRS official, that's all that. You can either hit my business line. It's 310-750-4599. And hit me direct. That's my business line. So I'm reachable. I'm down to earth. So let's get it.
My brother, definitely appreciate it. Now, notice, he is on the gram though, but he says, I am on my website and it has I got to talk to you about how to build the SMS technology into the website so that, yeah,
Yes, sir.
oh yeah, I'm finna go to school. Fitting, I'm from Virginia, so we fitting to go to
Yes,
school.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm glad we had this opportunity to sit down and chat and to really, I'm gonna use a word that doesn't really exist, but conversate, right? And
Yeah. Got to conversate.
conversate. We just really converse on music, who you are, what you do. But now, I mean, for those who are going to watch this interview, they're going to be really intrigued about the things that you've been speaking about, specifically in the latter half of this interview. So, brother, I wish you nothing but the best in your endeavors with your music, but more specifically with just your mogul ventures that you are going to be taking on, and I'm looking forward to seeing those turn into multi-million dollar
Man, thank
ventures.
you. I
Yeah, and
appreciate
I
it.
can say yeah. I interviewed him on We Create Music TV. Sure did.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So man,
Debut.
but man, thank you for being on the show. Greatly appreciate it. And
Man,
for those of
appreciate
you,
being here, man.
yeah, thank you. And for those of you who are tuning in, once again, thank you for tuning in. You can catch our show every Monday and every Thursday at 7 p.m. And of course, throughout the week as we continue to drop other things from our master classes that we do, from our panels that we do, and just ask that you continue to support We Create Music TV. But once again, thank you for tuning in. I hope each and every one of you have an amazing, blessed, and just creative day. I'm still trying to work on what my ending tagline would be, so I don't know yet. But just once again, thank you for tuning in. And ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Thank you very much.
Yay.